To those that have known me long enough, it shouldn't be too much of a surprise to you to know that I am a major supporter of Senator Sanders. You know, I supported him once in 2016, and I'm supporting him again in 2020. I know there's a lot of other Democrats on stage, you know, between Tulsi Gabbard and Andrew Yang, but Bernie's my boy right now. In fact, he always will be. Medicare for all, free college, you know, he come to think of it, out of all the Democratic candidates, Bernie Sanders has been the one that has stood by his word for decades, not changing his policy positions on pretty much anything. He basically wants to get the United States caught up with the rest of the world, you know, in terms of health care and other economic policies. Also, infrastructure, how the United States infrastructure has a grade of D+ compared to other parts of the world, and I think that's absolutely unacceptable. But that's besides the point. I want to tell you guys about this interview that I came across. It's Bernie Sanders interviewing two punk rockers at the mall, and this had to have taken place back in the early 80s, and I just now discovered it, so let's check out this clip and I'll get back to you.
We're now talking to two young people from South Burlington.
Burlington.
All right, one from Burlington. What is your name?
Michelle.
Michelle, and your name is?
Mike Blair.
And Mike, you're from South Burlington. Michelle, you're from Burlington. Well, let me start off by saying it's an interesting hairdo.
Thank you.
Lipstick is also very interesting. The color screen will focus in on it. It seems to be a black. Is that right? All right, so let me ask you the obvious question, all right?
Mm-hmm.
What does your dress mean? What does it say, or does it mean anything, or what?
It's just basically saying, to heck with society, to heck with law and order. Well, it's not so much law and order, but
It's saying to the mayor, to heck with law and order?
it's just basically saying that you can do whatever you want to do, and it doesn't matter. I can be punk rock, if you want to say. I don't like the way society's run.
Okay, well, that's...
It's a cop-out. Everybody's plastic.
All right, and all right, talk about that. What specifically? What are the aspects of that society that you don't like? How would you like to see it changed?
People are not open-minded enough. They think that in order to be stable in society, you have to have money, you have to live in a suburb, you have to do the set things, such as have so many people over for dinner a night, a week, or you're not socially acceptable. You got to dress a certain way to be socially acceptable. And I don't believe in having to belong to anything to be a person. I can do basically what I want with my appearance, with my attitude, and it doesn't matter.
Okay, well, that's a good statement. I appreciate that. And would you like to add to that?
Well, about the dress, it shows the way you feel, you know? Like, people wear black because they're not feeling too good about what's going on around them. Like, some of the stuff that goes on in the society, you know, is basically baloney. And, like, people say that the democracy is so truly free. And, I mean, that's fine, but the way we're living in this democracy isn't a true democracy. And like everybody's always complaining about depression and such. Well, that's going to happen in the democracy. It's natural, because if you have a democracy, there's going to be capitalists. And like I guess that, I mean, they shouldn't be complaining because that's what they asked for, you know?
What kind of society would you like to see?
Well, I'm kind of an anarchist, but communism doesn't bother me, like a true communism where it just goes to like no freedom of enterprise, because then everybody gets a chance to live and be safe, you know? But when it goes as far as cutting down people's freedom of speech, you know, that's not, I don't feel that's right.
So you're distinguishing between what you mean as true communism as opposed to what exists, say, in the Soviet Union.
Yeah.
Yeah, Marx's idea of communism was a lot different than what they have it now. I'm kind of an anarchist too, but I don't believe in total anarchy, because then we're just going to kill ourselves. I just don't like the way it's run now.
How do you feel society can be changed?
Well, if we could go into the archives and see what the government's really been doing for the past, I don't know how long, many years, then we'd all be pretty appalled and sickened by it. Because we think we're so free, we think we're so democratic, everybody has a say. We're just as imperialistic as the Soviets are, if not more. We're the ones that go into the other countries and we start wars. What really scares me is that we've never had a war in our own country. We don't know what it's like. We push our luck. Maybe one day we will get invaded, and then maybe we'll know what it's like.
Also, with communism and democracy, like one government always makes the people in its country feel that the other government's trying to impose on them, when that's not really true. They just want to be the way they want to be, and we should just want to stay the way we want to, and not try and spread our beliefs onto someone else.
What did you guys think of your own high school education?
The education itself was good. I'm going to college now, which is also good.
What college are you going to?
Community College, Vermont. But the environment is not the best. A lot of blackballing goes on. If you do one thing wrong, well then you're considered throughout the whole year, throughout your whole stay there, as a bad person. I don't know. It's odd. And if you dress radically, then you're...
You dress radically, right?
Yeah.
Can we say that?
Yeah.
That's a fair statement.
If you don't dress like everybody else, then they automatically think there's something wrong with you.
Also,
They send you away.
yeah, and with school, like the education part is fine, but they do so much programming to everybody to make them feel like teachers will poke fun at me a lot, you know. I'm not going to mention any names because they probably wouldn't be too pleased if they heard about that. But they specifically point out at me that, like, I'm trying to ruin their government. I don't care what they do. I just want to live the way I want to live, you know?
Okay, well, thank you very much for your forthright views. Okay, see ya. Thank you. Okay.
Yep, you could definitely tell that this took place in the 1980s. Now, although those two kids didn't put a lot of detail into it, what they're saying still rings true actually today, especially towards the end where they start talking about U.S. imperialism, you know, with the stuff that's going on in Iran and Iraq and the Middle East and all over the world. And you know what? They kind of have a point. You know, we shouldn't be pushing our ideas in other people's countries. And then we wonder why the rest of the world hates us. We can't even take care of our own citizens. So why the fuck are we in other people's countries? We need to keep our noses out of other people's shit. Now, these two identify as communists and anarchists. Now, I'm like further away from that. I consider myself, I guess you can say, more of like a left-leaning libertarian. I don't believe that we should have big government. I don't think the government should be involved in everyone's social life. Economic-wise, then yeah, I believe we should, because we can't just have, you know, crony capitalists all over the place, you know, corporations running free, allowing them to do whatever the fuck they want. Because if you, my thing is this, allowing corporations to regulate themselves, it's never been a good idea. I mean, just look at the way that things are being run now. Now, I'm not going to say that capitalism is bad. Capitalism does have its upsides. Let's be honest. Let's say you do live in a communist society. Do you really want the government making your cell phones, or your video games, or your pillows that you're sleeping on your bed? No. The thing is, some things should be private and some things should be public. Like healthcare, that should be publicly funded. The United States is a developed first world nation, all right? There's no reason why the most richest, most powerful, most influential country in the world can't guarantee healthcare for all its citizens. But yet every other country found a way to do that. There's no excuse. Now, I don't know what those two punks are at now, or even if they're still punk, but I can only hope that they're, you know, paying attention to the election and listening to what Senator Sanders has to say. You know, these two kids are right, Bernie's always been right, and you know what? That's exactly what we need. when it comes to presidential material. We need a candidate that's going to stand exactly by what they say. Someone who's been consistent for their entire political career. Now, like I said, this video is like, what, almost 30 years old? Maybe, yeah, around 30 years old. And still today, Bernie's the exact same person that he was back in the 1980s. He's a person that stands by exactly what he says. And he's not afraid to show it, too. So, I know I try not to get too political, but this is just, like I said, this is a punk-themed heavy metal channel. And you got Bernie Sanders interviewing two punks in the 80s. Well, of course you know I was going to speak about it, so that's all I got to say. You guys can form your own opinions on it. And until the next episode, stay metal.